I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
Doobie-doobie-doo. Welcome. Happy Monday, you guys. I hope everyone had a great weekend. So happy Memorial Day to all of you. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. And welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the roundtable and Friday for the Sabby show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Welcome, guys. I want to give quick shout outs to people in the chat. I had an awesome night last night. I saw Metallica live. It was so much fun. I still have songs in my head. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's give shout outs to peeps in the chat. Shout out to Frank Johnson, who just became a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. All right. Welcome. Shout out to Sonia, says, thank you, Sabby, for hosting Algier Hawkins on the show recently. Was a real eye-opener. We must get serious about organizing, building movements, and how we can go about that. Well said, Sonia. We're actually having those discussions over at Revolutionary Blackout Network. So we do have things coming up in the works. Thank you. Welcome, Notori. Says, rock on, fire, love, fire, rock on. Shout out to Hannah G. Says, good lineup, Sabby. Thank you very much. Greetings, Angela. Says, hello to Sabby and fam. Shout out to Kenshi. Says, happy Memorial Day, boo. What's going on, Sweary Fairy? Happy Honor Imperial Victims Day. Well said. Shout out to Gamer, says happy Monday, y'all. Oh, that is Sonic the Hedgehog. I love it. Sonic. Woo. Shout out to Gary, says doobie doo. I have one for you. What's going on? A kid says hi, Sabby and crew. Shout out to Eric, says hi there, all lefty friends. Eric's also a Sabby member. What's going on? Yipper99 says, hi, everybody. Tuesday is going to be the new Monday. Ooh, I don't know. I don't know about that. What's going on? Hunter says, sending love and solidarity from South Carolina. Say hello to my parents, will you? They're around that way. What's going on? Ashura. Oh, I just lost you, Ashura. There you go. Hey, gamer, you brought up the Grim Guard on JD. What did they do now? I saw crap on their channel. JD. I don't know. Interesting. What's going on? Where Pilgrim says, hey, everybody. Shout out to Delthea Simmons, who's a Sabby member, says, hello. Happy evening, everyone. What's going on? The Traveler says, hi, y'all. Happy Monday. Shout out to Greg Bruce, who is a Sabby member, says, Metallica, rock on. What's going on? Silver Surfer says, peace and love, Sabby and everyone. Shout out to, whoops, I almost clicked on the wrong name twice. Oh, no, I did click on that one. Oh, Angela says, Sabby's still on a Metallica high. Yes, I am. I don't know. I love going to concerts, you guys. I don't know if I've explained that to you or not, but I love seeing live music. And that's just one of my probably favorite hobbies, right? And when the pandemic started, we weren't able to do that because over here in Boston, we were shut down. There was all these different rules and regulations about what you can go to, when you can go to it, how many people can be there. That went on for like 2 years, basically. So we haven't had the opportunity to see live shows for a while. And I was bummed about that. And then I heard Metallica was going to be coming to Boston Calling. And I was like, oh, snap. But I can talk more about that later. I do want to go ahead and get started. So let me tell you what we are going to be discussing tonight. I do have some interesting stories for you. Tonight, we're discussing Richard Wolff and RJ, I want to say RJ, Richard Wolff and RJ ESKOW, gun economy. What is that about? That was a good discussion. We're also going to discuss HEDGES KSHAMA SAWANT strategy. That is a really good conversation. And I'm also going to discuss Bakari Sellers shuns Rashida Tlaib. What is Bakari Sellers up to now? And what does that mean for progressives? Also want to give a quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much for your support, guys. If you are interested in becoming a patron, I have 5 categories: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, Sabinators, and ultimate. All of their names are listed here. And a quick shout out to new Sabbies. How about a special shout out to Tristy Tom and Robbie 86. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate your support. It really does go a long way. And you can see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. All right, let's get into this story about Bakari Sellers, because this should be a warning sign to progressives running through the Democratic Party. Listen to this. Now, this is from Politico. Oh, I forgot to sign into Type VNC. 1 second. Bear with me tonight, you guys. I haven't had dinner yet because we're trying to like smoke a brisket, and we thought it would be done before before I did my show, and it's not ready yet. So if I'm a little loopy, that's why. Sabby a little hungry. All right. So Bakari Sellers, what is he up to now? So here we go. Scoop PAC to spend $1 million to oust squad member Rashida Tlaib. I cannot make this up. Here we go. There's Bakari Sellers there. Really quick tip. I do want to tell you about Bakari Sellers if you are not familiar with him. Bakari Sellers was one of the people that heavily smeared Bernie Sanders during his campaigns. Bakari Sellers also endorsed Nina Turner last year when Nina Turner ran, but this time around, he did not endorse her. In fact, Nina Turner got like pushback from people about that. Bakari Sellers got pushback from corporate Democrats about that, about him endorsing Nina Turner. So this time around, he did not. I think that's important for people to know. So let's go ahead and get into this article here. A new PAC endorsed by Bakari Sellers says it's going to spend upward of $1 million to support one of the candidates trying to unseat progressive firebrand Rashida Tlaib. Up to $1 million, guys. The stated mission of the group, Urban Empowerment Action PAC, is to back candidates who are dedicated to the educational empowerment and economic uplift of Black communities. Roll with me on this one. It gets better. The PAC adds that its support of Janice Winfrey, the Detroit city clerk, is meant to boost her campaign to restore infrastructure, improve educational opportunities in the district, and support, of course, the Biden-Harris agenda in D.C. So Janice Winfrey is running against Rashida Tlaib. So some of the squad members are going to have some pretty competitive challenges this time around. Rashida Tlaib is one of them, and also Cori Bush is one as well. So let's go back in. Scroll down here. This group is made up of a coalition of Black and Jewish business leaders. And see, I want to point out something about this. This is what I was telling people. This whole idea, whether or not you support Israel or Palestine, that is going to be a litmus test. They already used that with Nina Turner. They're using this with other candidates as well. John Fetterman has caved to that side and said he will back Israel if he wins. So this is going to be a make or break situation here. Anybody who comes out in defense for Palestine, just like Cornel West did, those people are not going to succeed in this race. That's what they're doing here. That's why they're pouring in all this money. So now they have found a way to gather Black leaders and Jewish business leaders, both of them, to come together to push out progressives. Now, I want to remind everybody, Black Americans in the United States were the original left. That's how it used to be. Now, obviously, after Malcolm and after Martin, Black Americans in this country embraced neoliberalism. That's why you'll hear people like Bakari Sellers tout and support for people like Joe Biden that's done a lot of harm to the Black community. Bakari Sellers and other Black leaders will do that because we have been conditioned, we've been brainwashed that neoliberalism, that the Democratic Party is our path to having some type of success in this country. We've been brainwashed that the Democratic Party is actually helping the Black community, and it's not. And we've pointed out several examples on this show that that is not working for the Black community. Let's go back in. So again, this group is made up of a coalition of Black and Jewish business leaders. For her part, TLAIB has been unequivocal in her disdain for Israel and its treatment of Palestinians, and this week introduced a resolution in the House to recognize Palestinian Nakba, a term describing the displacement of Palestinians ahead of the 1948 establishment of Israel. So here we go again. Just like I was telling you, anybody that comes out in support of Palestine, they are going to try to put as much money in those races that they can to make it so that those candidates do not win. I'm going to go on and show you where Bakari Sellers comes in this conversation. TLAIB, one of the most liberal and outspoken members of House Democratic Caucus, slide to the back, sorry. One of the most outspoken members of the House Democratic Caucus has also been a persistent critic of President Joe Biden, delivering her own rebuttal to his State of the Union address in March. By the way, I saw that rebuttal. I think I played a clip from that on this show. That rebuttal was weak. That was not the fiery Rashida Tlaib that we were introduced to when she first entered the House. She was also a no vote on Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill that was signed into law at the end of last year. The two-term Congresswoman said she voted against it because Democrats were reneging on a promise to pass that legislation alongside an expansive climate and social spending bill, commonly referred to as Build Back Better. By separating the two, she argued, progressives lost their leverage, and to date, Build Back Better remains stalled. And I can pose a lot of different arguments about progressives losing their leverage, because every time they had their leverage, or they could use leverage in a moment where it could be impactful, they decided not to. The only reason some of them voted no this time around is because they already knew that their vote would not affect the outcome. The numbers were not in their favor. But every time the numbers were in their favor, they chose not to use their leverage. So I call bull on that. So let's go on. Here comes Bakari Sellers. Sellers, the television pundit who is a former South Carolina state representative, is fundraising for the PAC. He says He wants to see the size of the Congressional Black Caucus increase in the next Congress and explains the PAC's endorsement of Winfrey this way. So here we go. He wants to increase the size of the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, which really hasn't done anything for the Black community. The Congressional Black Caucus approved Joe Biden's crime bill. Just something to note. He goes on to say, we are hoping that we can have a candidate that doesn't have varying distractions. Let's get into it, guys. Winfrey is Black, while TLAIB is Palestinian American. Winfrey is Black, while TLAIB is Palestinian American. Get ready for it, because now he's about to use identity politics for the reason why you should vote for Winfrey over Rashida Tlaib. This is something that the Democrats do often, and I'll be honest with you, they're actually really good at it. They're actually really good at it. So the argument that he's going to use is that you need to vote for the Black candidate because she's Black. Here we go. Here we go. When asked to comment on UEA's endorsement, Denzel McCampbell, a spokesperson for Tlaib's reelection campaign, said the representative is battle tested. He called on Winfrey to disavow the PAC spending. Outside super PAC ads do not win elections. Direct voter contact does. If our opponent truly does care about democracy, I hope that she will immediately disavow and condemn this type of big money attack on our democracy that only seeks to mislead voters and distort reality. I don't know what McCampbell is talking about. This portion here, outside super PAC ads do not win elections. Well, they sure as hell really do help. They really do help. That's one of the problems. These big money attack ads that come in against the progressive candidates, these ads really do help. So again, if you want to fix this problem, you have to get money out of politics. This is why I keep going back to that. You have to get the money out. Until you get the money out, this is always going to be an issue. As I've said before, the Democratic Party has changed the way that they use their strategy against progressive candidates. The first group that came in, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, they came in under the perception of the Democratic Party and corporate Democrats like Nancy Pelosi that they didn't have a chance of winning anyway. So why focus our attention on them? They won. That wasn't supposed to happen. So now, since that first group has come in, the Democratic Party has said, we need to readjust our strategy and prevent these progressives from winning. And this is what they've been doing. They readjusted their strategy. They've been pouring in big money from AIPAC, other organizations as well. They've even gotten corporate Black Democrats to turn against the progressive Black Democrats and push for their white opponent. That's how low they are willing to go. Anything so that they won't win. Let's go back in. I have more to say. Oh, this article. Okay. And here. The UEA's endorsement comes amid fears that Detroit, the nation's largest majority Black city, may not have a single Black representative in the next Congress with the retirement of Representative Brenda Lawrence. You see, what did I tell you? They're going to make this about identity politics. The PAC spent $55,000 supporting freshman Representative Nikema Williams in Georgia in her primary, which she won earlier this week. You guys see this? This PAC has already started pouring out money for other candidates, the type of candidates that they want to win, they want in there. Williams is the only incumbent on UEA's PAC's initial list of candidates it's backing. 3 others are seeking open seats in Illinois, Florida, and California. TLAIB, however, is the only incumbent being challenged on the PAC's initial list of targets. So again, here you have the Democratic Party, the corporate Democrats, and people like Bakari Sellers. Now you have them trying to push these super PACs to prevent these progressives from winning. Now, let's go back to the same mentality about Shontel Brown and Nina Turner. The Progressive Caucus said it's their duty to back the incumbent. Let's see what happens this time around. Because here she is an incumbent. Technically, Bakari Sellers and the rest of the Democratic Party should back Rashida Tlaib, but they don't want to. So why does that philosophy apply when it was the Nina Turner and Shontel Brown race, but it does not apply for this particular race? This is the hypocrisy. Long story short, they don't want the progressives there. The Republicans don't want them there, and the corporate Democrats don't want them there. I don't understand it, why people want to run in this party. Here we go. The support could go a long way for Winfrey, who will face off against Tlaib in Michigan's August 2nd primary. So mark that date, you guys. They'll be competing in the redrawn 12th district. So Rashida Tlaib is another one that has been hit with a redrawn district. Now, this includes parts of Detroit as well as the more conservative areas of Livonia and the city of Dearborn, which is home to the nation's largest population of Arab Americans. You see, they're out here even like redrawing districts. I talked about this a couple of days ago. That means this is no longer a shoo-in for Rashida Tlaib. Here we go. Winfrey, who entered the race in February, this is new, raised a little more than $236,000 and had just over $220,000 cash on hand. According to latest Federal Election Commission records, those figures are dwarfed by Tlaib's war chest. She raised more than $2.3 million and still has $1.6 million cash on hand. I chop it up with Sellers, who explains his involvement with the PAC, why he says he has no beef with Tlaib directly, and what he thinks of the Biden administration is using Vice President Kamala Harris. So let me go to something that he said here. What exactly is your involvement in Urban Empowerment Action PAC? And tell me about the aim of this new PAC. This is what he said. Helping raise dollars, helping direct funds to the candidates. We're looking for candidates who have a unique and keen interest in uplifting the African American community. See what I mean? You see what I mean? If this is true, if they were looking for candidates that had an interest in uplifting African American community, then why didn't they go for Nina Turner? See what I mean? This is what they're going to do. He's going to do identity politics. That's the reason why he's going to tell you not to vote for Rashida Tlaib. Now, I tell you multiple times on this show, I think it's a moot point. I think you need to vote for a third party candidate or an independent candidate. And this right here, what I am showing you, is a perfect example of what happens when you run through the two-party system. It's a perfect example of why you need to leave this decrepit, corrupt two-party system. They have people in their own party turning against them. Anything to keep them out. And this is why the strategy does not work. Now, he goes on to say, if you don't take control of your destiny and or politics, and that means resources, then what good is the platform that you have? Oh my God. We hopefully will be able to increase the size of the Congressional Black Caucus, but also just get good quality members who understand policy. That's a punch in the face. And who care about uplifting our Black communities. And this is all it's going to be about, ladies and gentlemen. This is all he's going to talk about. All he's going to talk about. You need to vote for the Black candidate, not necessarily because they are better, but because they're Black. That's where the identity politics comes in. Not in this article do I see what's great about Winfrey, except for the fact that she's Black. What has she done in the community? How does she feel about policing? Anybody know? How does she feel about housing, gentrification, and things like that? There's nothing else mentioned. Just the fact that she's Black, and you should vote for her because she's Black, because they want to expand the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, as the reporter, when someone says to you, uplifting the Black community, I would come back with, can you give me examples how Winfrey has done that? Because otherwise, to me, this is just, it's just words. What can you point to? What has she done? Now, he goes on to say, when they talk to him about Black communities in Detroit, and he mentions, I'm assuming you're going to Rashida, right? And they say yes. And he goes on to say, Congressman TLAIB, I'm sure, serves admirably. However, we're hoping that we can have a candidate that doesn't have varying distractions. Again, I will come back with, what do you mean by distractions? So he goes on to say, Congresswoman TLAIB voted against the infrastructure bill. Coming from South Carolina, I can tell you that I understand in our communities that the return on that investment is so high. And we want someone, particularly in these Black communities, that does not get distracted by shiny things or media opportunities. Shiny things or media opportunities. This coming from the corporate Democrat. Let's go back in. But is focused on the uplift of our communities and does right by them. Again, there's that term, uplifting the Black community. How so? So they go on to ask, so what specifically is your concern with TLAIB? You mentioned a couple of things, including media opportunities. As you know, being part of the squad helps elevate kind of everything that she does. She also draws the ear of folks on the right and the left for her policy decisions. He goes on to say, I don't have beef with her directly. I just think that there are individuals who will have the interests of their district first and foremost and not their brand, and will do things in the interest of uplift of that community. Again, here's that word again, uplift of that community. What are you talking about, BAKARI? What are the examples that you can point to when you mention uplift? He just keeps using the word over and over, and the reporter's just not asking him for details. People will buy into it, by the way. They're like, oh, uplift, that sounds like a positive word. Yes, why shouldn't I be for that? Won't dig any deeper. Don't dig any deeper. Here we go. It's not as much of a knock on her as it is that somebody else can do the job better because they're focused on these particular issues. So this is what it's going to come down to. So they also talk about her ratings. Some 62% gave her favorable ratings. So she has more than majority as favorable. This is compared to Janice Winfrey, who was polling at 4%. So it seems like folks there don't see it the way that you're seeing it. Why throw money behind someone who's lesser known and challenging a popular incumbent? He goes on to say it's not a popularity contest. This is about going to Congress and serving your constituents and having that focus on these other development issues. I mean, I don't know her excuses for voting wrong on that piece of legislation. That's just probably the brightest and best example. I don't want to get into a battle about throwing mud at her by any stretch. I just think that we're going to throw money behind somebody who we believe focuses on the issues that we care about. What are the damn issues, Bakari? What are you referring to? Now, I'm sure if we sit back, can we assume what he's talking about? Yeah, probably, but spell it out. Otherwise, this just sounds like bull. Now, do I have criticism about Rashida Tlaib? Oh, absolutely. I think that she's another one that has just become a careerist now. I think she doesn't push back the way that she should either. But I'm not getting any concrete examples from Bakari about what she should be doing that she's not doing. So he finishes up here and says, we're not gonna leave Janice Winfrey hanging. This isn't unilateral disarmament. We're not gonna send her in there with nothing. We're gonna do the very best we can and see what happens. We're going to be players. There it is, guys. We're going to be players. We will have the resources to make an impact on various districts, and we have a laser focus of improving the conditions for Black folks socially, educationally, economically. How, Bakari? How? This is just a bunch of words. It's word salad. What are you going to do differently? Let's come out of this article. Doesn't even tell you what he wants to do, but he did let you know they're players. When I first saw this article, the first thing I thought about was the fact that here you had the squad, for the most part, voting along with corporate Democrats on legislation that they want them to. Here you have the squad not endorsing Nina Turner the same way the Democratic Party didn't want them to. They said, no, you cannot offer endorsement for her. Don't do it. And then there were threats made about their career and their seats, and they went along with it. And Rashida Tlaib was one of the ones that went along with it. The only one that endorsed Nina Turner was AOC, and that was the night before. So I said it was performative BS. Rashida Tlaib went along with it because she didn't want to have her career threatened. She didn't want to lose any assignments that she has. All this time, they have gone along with what Nancy Pelosi wants. They didn't force the vote. They voted for that $40 billion to go to Ukraine. They've been playing the game the way that they're told to. And here you have corporate Democrats still trying to get them out. This is why this does not work. This is why this strategy is over. This is a perfect example. You have a group, you have Rashida Tlaib specifically going along with what they wanted them to do, listening to Nancy Pelosi, listening to Democrat leadership, and they're still trying to push her out. To everyone watching, I want you to hear this and hear me very clearly on this. And we're going to talk about this when we get into the next story with Chris Hedges and Kshama Sawant. This strategy of putting progressives through the Democratic Party and us actually getting something in return, some type of tangibles, them actually fighting for us. This strategy is over. It's done. The only way that this is going to change and improve is if you get money out of politics, and no one is doing that. What happened to ending Citizens United? What happened to that? Do people still talk about that or no? People got their bag and they're all good, right? This is over. did everything that they wanted them to do, and they still are trying to get you out. You're trying to stay in a party that does not want you. The Republicans don't want you there. The Democrats don't want you there. This is what was going to happen, and I called it. I said, watch. They're going to get people to primary them. They're going to pour in more money. I told you this was coming. Did all of that. And now looking back on it, if this is how it was going to be, well, hell, Rashida, you should have went ahead and just endorsed Nina anyway. You guys see how this game is played? What a shame. What a shame. I want to give shout outs for some comments here. Delthea said economic uplift equals wealth gurus are coming for your money, your labor, your dreams, or any combination of the three. Well said, Delthea. Bart said this is how they get the squad to cave. See? Thank you for the super chat, Colin. AIPAC sponsors potential Black leaders from HBCUs. Bakari went to Morehouse and went to Israel via AIPAC to learn more about the country. That sounds like something Bakari would do. Again, for those of you just joining, I want to remind you, Bakari Sellers was one of the people who heavily smeared Bernie Sanders when he was running. Thanks for the super chat, The Traveler. Why do they think playing nice with DNC leadership is going to make the DNC not attack them? It doesn't work. Exactly, The Traveler. It does not work. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. This doesn't speak well for Nina, as Bakari campaigned for her, and I'm sure she knows about his AIPAC/corporate connections. I'm sure she does. Looks really bad, doesn't it? I knew Bakari Sellers was bad news, and when I heard last year that he was campaigning for her, I was like, why would you align yourself with Bakari Sellers, the same guy who was smearing Bernie Sanders that you were on the campaign trail for? And he was smearing Bernie Sanders, telling people that Bernie Sanders was terrible. Don't vote for him. These policies are too far left. Why would you let him join your campaign? I wouldn't be surprised if Bakari Sellers joined that campaign just to sabotage it. Thank you for the super sticker, Juliet. Thank you. Delthea said, Black folk don't need uplift. What Black folk need is reparations and justice and an end to a predator economy. Well said, Delthea. Lewis said, sorry to be off topic, but after Sabby said she loves concerts, we just bought 2 tickets to the Les Nubians playing in Boston on Bastille Day. Oh, snap. Yeah, Bastille Day is pretty fun here. I went one time and I saw, it was like 3 different bands they had that were playing. Awesome. Great to hear, Lewis. So this is a problem. Rob MM said, biggest mistake. We are not promoting to Black and people of color voters to vote third party during Democratic primary. I agree, Rob. I agree. I've had third party candidates on this show. I'm actually having someone come on tomorrow that actually worked with the Green Party. And he's going to talk about some of the mistakes that were made and where they're going forward. So thank you so much for that comment. Well said. Mary said, yeah, Bakari is a backstabbing clown. Yeah, he's, oh my God. No. I honestly think some of these people that join these campaigns, or they're supposed to be helping these campaigns, I honestly think some of these people are just infiltrators trying to sabotage these campaigns. I don't trust them. Same thing with Jeff Weaver. I don't know why progressives still trust this guy. I don't know. All right, let's go on to Kshama Sawant and Chris Hedges. So for those who are not aware, I have been talking about Chris Hedges a lot on this show. I do follow him a lot. I read most of his articles, if not all. Maybe not most of them. I probably missed like 1 or 2. Most of his articles. I also follow his show. And for those who don't know, he is on Real News Network. So I have been covering like some of his shows that he's had on there, depending on the topic. And he had KSHAMA Sawant on his show recently, and they talked about a number of issues, right? But they started to talk about strategy. And this is the part I want to focus on, because this is the piece of the puzzle that I feel this strategy of progressives through the Democratic Party, I feel like they are still trying to play the Democratic Party's game. And I think that's part of the reason why this does not work, along with the money. But KSHAMA is going to explain her own strategy and why she was able to beat the recall, which I've covered on this show as well, why she was able to succeed, even though there were so many forces against her, right? Like Amazon was against her. There was a lot of big money that came in, why she was still able to win. But first, I want you to hear what she says about the Democrat strategy, like what they're doing and why it does not work. So listen to this. Pull myself to the back here. There's two parts of this I want to show you.
People, okay, so how do we deal with the fact that every 4 years, every 2 years, we are told to vote for Democrats? So in other words, we do need, the left does need to put forward strong campaigns like ours, campaigns organized around demands, not around personality politics. But at the same time, explain that the way to...
That part right there. Let's bring it back just a little bit. Listen to how she says she wants you to organize.
Being in a, anti-electoral in a simplistic manner also ends up benefiting the Democratic Party, because that does not explain to ordinary people, okay, so how do we deal with the fact that every 4 years, every 2 years, we are told to vote for Democrats? So in other words, we do need, the left does need to put forward strong campaigns like ours, campaigns organized around demands, not around personality politics. But
the left does need to organize, but they need to do so around demands and not around personalities. This goes back to something that, like Eric, my producer, he's mentioned a couple of times. I have a list of demands. Eric has a list of demands. I know JB went over those on his show. We've gone up them over here too as well. This is a part of the problem. This is something that the Democratic Party focuses a lot on personality. What did Joe Biden run on, you guys? What were his demands? What was he running on? Oh, I remember, the soul of America. What did he really run on? This is how people like the Democratic Party, they can just win because they get you to focus on the personality. Like they got everyone to fall in love with Barack Obama, right? He could be the first Black president. What did they say about Joe Biden? No, Joe Biden would be the first president to actually have gone to a public university. Joe Biden has a lot of appreciation for the Black community. They get you to focus on the personality so that you're not really paying attention to what is this person actually going to do for us. KSHAMA Sawant is letting you know that's not the way we need to do this. We need to focus on the demands and not the personality. Now, I just showed you, right? BAKARI Sellers endorsed this PAC for Winfrey to win against Rashida Tlaib. And what is BAKARI Sellers' focus? On the fact that she's Black, on the personality, on the identity, not what they're going to do and what they can do. That's a big problem. Let's go back in.
At the same time, explain that the way to run a really strong electoral campaign is to, as I said, completely reject personality politics, completely reject careerism, and build political organizations like Socialist Alternative, except we need far bigger organizations where we can hold our elected representatives and other leaders in the organization accountable.
One part here that she said that I think she talks fast, but I want you to pick up this part right here.
The left does need to put forward strong campaigns like ours, campaigns organized around demands, not around personality politics, but at the same time explain that the way to run a really strong electoral campaign is to, as I said, completely reject personality politics, completely reject careerism, and
completely reject personality, completely reject careerism, which that was something that, AOC said when she was running. I don't care if I'm a one-term congressperson. That was a lie. But she's right. You have to reject that idea of careerism. You have to be okay with the fact that you're going to go in and fight for these issues. And at the same time, the Democratic Party may push you out. You may only be a one-term congressperson. And that is okay because you're getting the issues accomplished. You're getting the issues addressed and you're fighting for them. You have to be okay with that. And right now, the members that we have of the squad that are in Congress don't appear to be okay with that. If they were okay with that, then the threats that were made at them about endorsing Nina Turner wouldn't have meant anything to them. They would have endorsed her anyway. And that right there lets you know that they're careerist. Here we go.
Build political organizations like Socialist Alternative, except we need far bigger organizations where we can hold our elected representatives and other leaders in the organization accountable, and that the program of demands that we're fighting around becomes the central focus, not those individuals who could then use those positions just to build their own careers by making themselves useful to the ruling class. That's what we need to reject.
Boom. Right there. Right there. You got to be okay with that. You need to reject it. You can't do the same strategy that the Democratic Party is doing. It does not work for us. If we keep doing the same strategy that they're doing, we're never going to get anything. We're never going to get anything. We'll just be going along to get along. And that's what a lot of them have been doing. Let's go back in. Here is no, that's not the part I want to go to. Sorry. There's another part here where she breaks down. Just go to the Etherpad. 2337. Okay, let's go to 23. Oh, wait, this is 2337. I think I'm in the right spot. I'm sorry, guys. Yes, 2337. Whoopsie. All right, so I was in the right spot. Sorry. Listen to this part. So this is the second part.
So, Kshama, the Democrats focus on likely voters. That's not been your tactic. You focus on those who are often part of the 80 million eligible voters who don't cast ballots, including immigrants, those living in public housing, marginalized community. I know you distribute campaign material in, I think, 8 languages. And this has been a tactic that's worked very well for you. In fact, in one heavily East African building, I think turnout was nearly 10 times what it was in the general election. I wondered if you could describe how this works.
I think this tactic that you're correctly talking about, Chris, and which, as you correctly said, it stands in stark contrast to the approach of the Democratic Party. I think that difference flows from the fundamental political differences in the first place. In other words,
let me jump in right here for a second. So you notice one of the things that she did is she doesn't focus on the people who do vote per se. She focused on the people that could vote, people that may be registered, may not be registered, but usually we're just not voting. She focused on the non-voters. And this is something we've been telling people we need to do. If you want to do this strategy like Kshama Sawant and be successful and win, and be successful and win, You really need to focus on the non-voters. Now, let's go back to a couple years ago. How did AOC win? She went and knocked on doors and she got non-voters to come out and vote. The people that Crowley would have never expected to come out and vote. This is what you have to do. Whereas the Democratic Party per se tends to focus on the people who already do vote. They don't pay attention to non-voters. They really don't. I'm just being honest. They pay attention to the people who come out faithfully every election cycle, and those are the ones they're trying to win over. Let's go back in.
The whole ethos of the Democratic Party is that they're not going to be overtly and viciously pro-big business in the way that the Republicans are. You know, the Republican Party is in its very rhetoric, very openly pro-big business. They also you know, they also don't have a problem being openly racist, you know, openly going against the rights of LGBTQ people, for example, as they're doing in Florida.
And this is something I want to chime in with here as well. When people often ask me, well, how come you don't focus much on Republicans? You focus more so on Democrats? Because of just what Kshama Sawant just said. Because most people already know that the Republicans show you who they are. They're overt about it. It's the Democratic Party that's the one that is covert, meaning that they kind of hide it. It's a little subdued. Like, you really got to be paying attention to notice it. And this is why we continue to vote for them, right? Because they're better at hiding who they really are. They pretend like they're going to give you something. They pretend like they're for the working class. They pretend like they're for the Black community. They'll say the right thing so that you'll vote for them. But they never actually implement any of those policies to make your life better. Not in the Black community, not for working class communities. And so then they'll say, well, next election cycle, we need you to donate more money so we can beat the Republican before he takes all your rights and your privileges away. And we fall for it every time and donate them more money so that they can do that, right? They get elected, same cycle. We need you to donate more money so we can be the next Republicans before they take your rights away. And they'll keep telling you. Sorry, you guys, I'm congested. They'll keep telling you that they're going to do those things. They'll keep telling you we're going to improve the schools. We're going to improve infrastructure. We're going to help these roads. Oh, I've heard that one so many times. We're going to fix these roads. We're going to do all these things. But in order for us to do that, guys, we need you to donate to us so we can beat the evil Republicans. They do it every time. And people give them their money and they win. Nothing in the community improves. I talk to my family members in Baltimore, and I can tell you that Democrat machine that's been running through Baltimore for decades has such a strong hold on that city. And every time you go back to visit, or I go back to visit, nothing has improved. The roads are still messed up. The schools are still underfunded, but the Democrat machine there is so strong. They're so good with their message of convincing people, poor people, working class people, that they have to come out and vote for them, because if the Republicans win, then they're going to lose rights and privileges. But at the end of the day, when you really think about it, when you think about the people in those neighborhoods, in those communities, in the inner city in Baltimore, what rights and privileges do they really have? Because the city has taken away so much already. All they're doing is keeping you poor. They're keeping you right where you are. You'll never get out unless you get some kind of help from someone who's willing to help you get out. Their goal is to keep you right there in poverty and keep making the same damn promises every election cycle and not do a damn thing. That's what this is about. Let's go back in.
And openly attacking reproductive rights, all of that. So, the Democrats are not like overtly against all rights of ordinary people in that way, but their role for the ruling class, they're also, their primary task is to be useful for the ruling class under capitalism. But the way they do it is by speaking from both sides of their mouth And because of that, because, for example, they will talk about $15 an hour. Every so often you will see Pramila Jayapal, the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, tweet out saying it's time for Medicare for all. But then when it actually comes time to fight for it, then they will, they will actually use their progressive status to give cover for the Biden regime, which is what they have done every step of the way.
Right. So she's right. They talk out both sides of their mouth. That's what they do. They'll tweet about these progressive issues. So people, a lot of people are on Twitter, people can see, they're still fighting for us. But when it comes time to vote for legislation, they don't vote that way. They vote along with Joe Biden so that they can keep their career, they keep their seat. They're talking out both sides of their mouth. This is what they do. And they'll keep doing this charade until the rest of American people really wake up and start to see, man, they're all players. They're all players in this game of politics. And we're the ones being played. Here we go.
Because that is their agenda, and there's this disconnect between the rhetoric they espouse and the actual role that they play that is in service of the ruling class. Because of that, they're not eager to actually mobilize the kind of voters, as you said, that we mobilized, where, we would not actually have won our elections had we not mobilized a whole section of the population that is typically disenfranchised, not because they don't have the legal right to vote, but because there's nothing for them to vote for, and nobody cares whether they vote or not, because they are not the people those Democrats are there to fight for.
That's right. What she just said is 100% spot on. Nobody cares if the people that she organized, the group of people that she organized, nobody cares if those people vote or not, because those aren't the people the Democratic Party is actually trying to get to come out and vote. They're the forgotten class. Working class, poor people, the Democratic Party does not care about them. They're forgotten. So Kshama was smart with Socialist Alternative. Very smart. Let's organize the people that have been forgotten about. Let's bring those people together. Let's stop focusing on these academic elite individuals. Let's stop focusing on the Wall Street bros, the tech bros. Let's stop that. Let's start focusing on the people that the Democratic Party has left behind. And that is how she was able to win. You have to show those people that somebody somewhere really does care about them. And you can't just show them that. You have to also fight with them, alongside them. And that's something that Kshama Sawant does. She doesn't just go talk to them when she needs a vote. She organizes with them. She protests with them. She fought for the minimum wage, $15 minimum wage in Seattle, also tenant rights in Seattle. That's the difference. If every politician that we have was doing what Kshama Sawant does, not taking the full salary, donating some of that salary to these groups and organizations to help people get back on their feet and to have a decent life, working alongside with the people that you organize and not just when you need to get a vote. If every politician did that and they were actually in the community and they were working with the people and actually helping the people, I believe we wouldn't have a poverty rate as high as we do. I believe that more people would actually have some type of faith in electoralism. But I also believe that we would have stronger communities in this country, which we don't have. That's what we need. But most politicians don't do that. The only time you see a lot of them come around is when they need you to vote for them again. Most of them, they don't even live in the community anymore. Let's continue on.
Well, welcome everybody.
Whoa, what happened? Somehow it went to Chris Hedges. It went to a different video. Uh-oh. I think I accidentally clicked on Sorry, guys. Oh, man. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back to that spot. Crap. I don't know where I was now. Hold on. Why did it do that? Okay, I know I was at least past this part. Let me see where she's at.
Saying it's time for Medicare for all. But then when it actually comes time to fight for it, then they will, they will actually use their progressive status to give cover for the Biden regime, which is what they have done every step of the way. Because that is their agenda, and there's this disconnect between the rhetoric they espouse and the actual role that.
All right, we'll just hear this part one more time, but I'm not far from it.
They play that is in service of the ruling class. Because of that, they're not eager to actually mobilize the kind of voters, as you said, that we mobilize, where, we would not actually have won our elections had we not mobilized a whole section of the population that is typically disenfranchised, not because they don't have the legal right to vote, but because there's nothing for them to vote for, and nobody cares whether they vote or not, because they are not the people those Democrats are there to fight for. And so because of that difference, they don't actually want to mobilize those same voters that we mobilize, because, when you go out there and say, hey, as East African working class people, as workers, as union members, you need to not only come out and vote for our campaign, but we need you to then join us in door knocking. We need you in order to win $15 an hour, the Amazon tax or renters' rights. When you do that, what you're doing is raising the expectations, the political expectations of all those people who are mobilized. You're giving them the hope that actually, if you vote for this and then you fight alongside this elected representative, we can actually win concrete victories. Now, see, the Democrats don't want to.
So I want to chime in here for just a second about winning concrete victories when you fight alongside with them. That's the difference. If you had someone like AOC, as popular as she is, if you had her out here with us, the rest of us that are activists, out here leading some type of movement, some type of organizing, you don't think all the voters and stuff will come together, the people in the community who come together and walk alongside with her? They would. But she's not going to do that.
Do that because they have no intention of actually winning those concrete victories for you. They just want you to think about that enough. Think that just feel positive just enough so that the Democrats are able to win elections. But ultimately, their goal is to maintain this unsteady equilibrium where they are somewhat to the left of the Republican Party, but their main goal is to be sort of the gatekeeper against the genuine left interests and genuine working class.
A gatekeeper. A gatekeeper. So the Democratic Party will always make it so that, is this not tight? Will also make it so that they are always appear to be left to the Republican Party, right? That's the part a lot of people can see. That's pretty much overt, right? But at the same time, they'll pretend to be a friend of people on the left and act like they care about working class issues, but they really don't. They're gatekeepers. And they'll continue to keep you voting for them. I've seen this all my life. And I'm sure people older than me have seen it longer than me. Gatekeeping. This is what they do. Let's go back in.
Class interest. So because of that fundamental difference between what role they want to play and what our, why we are politicals as socialists, you see these tactical differences emerge as well. And then repeatedly, you will see that the ruling class will use other, sort of every new iteration, like every time we run for re-election, they will use different tactics in order to then undermine us. So in reference,
they will use different tactics in order to undermine them. And what was one of the ones I just mentioned to you at the beginning of this stream? BAKARI Sellers endorsing a super PAC against Rashida Tlaib. They have all types of strategies that they use. Money's a big one. But this is what they'll continue to do.
To the specific tactic you mentioned, Chris, where we have mobilized, in historic numbers, we have mobilized working class people and communities of color, vulnerable communities like never before. In fact, not only did we do that, we actually have carried out voter registration drives like this city has never seen before. But because of all that, and because the ruling class in Seattle has seen how powerful that is that we don't just win votes, but then we go and fight, use our office to win concrete victories. Now they have failed in defeating us in 2 re-elections. They failed in recalling us last year, and now they are now resorting to trying to gerrymander our districts. So how Democrats complain about Republicans gerrymandering, which of course they should, because Republicans do have a gerrymandering agenda. But now it's the Democrats in Seattle who are trying to gerrymander our district here in order to cut working class people out of this district.
So let's talk about that for a second, because one of the reasons why the Democratic Party really wanted to push that voting rights bill, I told you this back then, was so that you could vote for Democrats. It wasn't so that you could vote for a third party, independent Republicans. It was only so you could vote for Democrats. That's why they really wanted to get that pushed out there, especially before going into the midterms. That didn't happen. Midterms are happening this year. But you see what Kshama Sawant, this is happening everywhere now. They're trying to redraw the lines of the districts so that candidates like Kshama Sawant won't win again. That's how corrupt and cruddy they are. That's how bad they are. So they never really do the will of the people. We vote for them, but do we actually get what we vote for? No, we don't. They don't really do anything for us. They don't even want us to vote the way we want to vote. They want us to vote the way that they want us to vote. Because if they wanted us to vote the way that we want to vote, we wouldn't even be a hassle for independents and third-party candidates to get their name on a damn ballot. Hello. That wouldn't even be an issue. They make it that way because they don't want them on the ballot. That's why they make it so difficult. You have to get all these signatures, right? They don't want us to have our needs met. All they need us for is to vote for them so that they can stay in office and they can make a lot of money. A lot of these politicians make a lot of money, especially after you've been in for 5 years. That's what they want. So this is why I keep telling people, the whole damn system is corrupt. And there's not many politicians like Kshama Sawant that, hey, I'm on city council, I'm a politician, but I'm not taking my full salary. Not many people are doing that. I'm a politician, but I'm also an activist. And even after I became a politician, I continue to be an activist. I'm still fighting with you. I'm still walking alongside you. I'm still marching in the streets with you. Let's talk about that. Because some of the politicians that said that they were progressives and they came from activism, they're not doing any activism anymore. They're careerists now. They've been corrupted. They've been eaten up by the Democrat machine. And I call it a machine because that's what it is. Now, with ordinary machines, a lot of times you can tune them. They start to fall apart, start to break here and there. You can tune them. You can repair a machine. You can tweak it, make it just right so it can continue to keep trucking for another couple years. That's what we tried to do with putting progressives through the Democratic Party, right? We tried to tweak it. Let's fix this machine. But sometimes when you try to fix a machine, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the bolts fall off. Sometimes the screw falls off. And then you may need to come back with different types of nuts and bolts to really repair it. And if you go to a repairman, he might tell you what? There's no more repairing this. It's old. It's done. You need to get a new machine. You need to get a new appliance. I can't fix your washing machine anymore. It's done. It's had its days. You need to buy a new one. We are at the point right now where we need to buy something new. Trying to sit here and fix and repair this old ass broken machine from the 60s, 70s, the nuts and bolts have fallen off. We need a new system. The one we have is not working. So I see a lot of people that want to talk on Twitter. They want to say, you guys telling people just to give up, that's just not right. That's so mean. You guys need to keep fighting. I notice all those people are wealthy. David Soretta wasn't too happy with RBN because we told him this is ridiculous. David Soretta, another one, got a lot more money than me. And every single one of those people are welcome to come on this show. I've invited David Soretta on this show to have that conversation. And in fact, I told him that I think there is a misunderstanding because we're not saying do nothing. We're saying we need a different strategy and we have a different idea. Haven't heard from David, but I know he opened the email. I have email campaigns, so I can tell if you opened it. They don't want to have the conversation. They're scared. I really do believe they're scared. If you weren't scared, why wouldn't you have that discussion? So why am I going to continue to sit here and take advice from someone like David Soretta, who, let's be real, he's not just getting paid from Bernie Sanders campaigns, which he made a lot of money off of. David Soretta is also getting paid from Hollywood. So you're rich and your wife is a Democrat politician and you're telling us we need to keep on fighting. Yeah, I guess we do, David, because that's how you get paid. Please, let's go. Let's go back into the video.
That's how far they will go to prevent ordinary people from getting politically involved.
Well, that's how they removed Dennis Kucinich from his House seat. And it was the Democratic Party that did it.
Exactly.
I want to talk about two things just in the last couple minutes.
So did you guys hear that? He's talking about Dennis Kucinich. That's how he was removed from his House seat. So it's unfortunate, but that's what happened. And that's what they'll do against the people who really push back. I think I have one more part here and then I'll go to Richard Wolff.
Let's assume that this cultish Republican Party does take power in the midterms and the stagnation of the Biden administration results in another Trump presidency or a wannabe Trump presidency. How are we going to resist? And then can you also address this idea of having progressives like Bernie Sanders or Nina Turner run within the embrace of the Democratic Party?
Yes, first of all, in terms of what could happen in the midterms, I mean, the most likely scenario is unless something unusual develops between now and the voting period, we should expect an absolute shellacking, as I said before, of the Democrats. This is
Yep, it's coming. It's coming.
What all political analysts are expecting, and so the prospect not only of the right wing as a whole making gains is a very real one. The prospect of a Trump resurgency is also a very real one. Unfortunately, at this point, that's how dangerous this the whole debacle of the Biden regime has been. And so the only way to cut across that and create a genuine alternative to right populism that could unite the majority of working class people in America is through working class politics. It's not for nothing that Bernie Sanders got a resounding response to his campaign platform every single time that he ran. It united people even in states that you would otherwise think of as red states. It's in red states that you've seen not only a strong, a positive response for a working class campaign program like that of Bernie Sanders, but it's in a red state, West Virginia, where you saw one of the most successful and historic labor uprisings happen in our times, which was the struggle of the teachers in 2018, the West Virginia educators who won an enormous victory by standing up not only to the Republican-led legislature in the state, but also to the leaders of their own unions who were not willing to take a fighting approach to winning a strong contract and to maintaining solidarity across the board, among public school employees. So it was rank and file leaders and rank and file members of the educators union who did that. So that, plus the example of Starbucks workers now in nationwide unionization drives, in so many hundreds of stores, and the strike actions that Starbucks workers are starting to take at the store level without any political leadership. They're themselves recognizing that the only way to push back against the union busting and the anti-worker intimidation and threats is to take work stoppage actions and strike actions. And the example of the Amazon labor union winning a union election, all of this is telling us, well, the way to actually push back against corporate politics, push back against the failures of the Democrats, and to defeat the rise of the right wing is to build struggles of the working class where we are able to unite a majority of working people on a common working class based program. And in that process, the labor movement, and rank and file workers have a huge historic role to play. So the union drives in major corporations like Amazon and Starbucks are the most crucial thing right now. Absolutely.
Okay. And then this interview does go on, but I do want to make sure I leave time for the other video as well. But yes, the way you defeat this, you have to unite the working class. You got to bring the working class people together. And yes, all of these labor movements that we've seen over the past year and a half in this country have proven that it can be done. Were they relying on Joe Biden to fix this for them? Were they relying on their congressmen and their senators to fix this for them? No. And a lot of times, by the time they decide to unionize and work together, they have actually already contacted their congressman. They've already contacted their senator, and nothing has been done. So they took the power in their own hands and they came together. And that is what I'm telling you guys tonight. We got to stop relying and hoping that these politicians that are in DC, especially the ones in DC that are in this duopoly, are going to actually do something for us. I mean, you have a better chance of being able to confront and being able to challenge these local politicians that you have, whether it's a senator, whether it's your mayor, your city councilor. You actually have a better chance of being able to talk to them than you do the representatives that you have in DC. Because the local representatives are still here. They're local. Just something to think about. I'm going to go to some of these comments here. Zach said, Sabby, you need to learn and talk modern MMT. We cannot fight for left things without knowing the reality of how money's made and that taxes do not spending on the federal level. Yes, I've talked about MMT on here multiple times. We've also had MMT experts come on the show multiple times. So it's been discussed on here a lot. Brenda said, exactly. The Wonder Bread left always focuses on personalities. Yep. Hassan said, for example, money invested in mutual aid can fund strikes, and even putting money into local food banks can help to feed poor families. I believe that people would see more of a ROI with their money, return on investment. Yes. Well said, Hassan. Well said. And that's why we tell people when people say, oh, you can't mutual way your way out of this. Like, you do realize all these strikes that you brag about, that you report on, those strikes have mutual aid. That's how people are able to leave their jobs and continue striking, and they're still able to buy food and things like that. So that's important for people to know. Delthea said, anyone who can get non-voters to vote for them wins. Absolutely. Because a lot of time non-voters are people who they gave up a long time ago. That's why they don't vote. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. Kwame Ture spoke about politicians need to have organizations to guide their steps. Look at Sawant's involvement with Socialist Alternative. We need to ask politicians who are the organizations they are tied to. That's right. I brought this up last week about Working Families Party, how they're supposed to be out here supporting the working, progressive candidates that are running for office, and they're out here endorsing corporate Democrats against the progressives. Thank you for the super chat. AJF is in the house. Repeating and depending on the same action and expecting a different result can be an act of dependency, complacency, and lunacy. Thank you for that. Collins said, I left my hometown in New Jersey for college in 1999, working class Black town. Not much has changed in that town since I left, even to the same buildings bolted up. That's right. I tell you, I go back to Baltimore, it still looks the same. Still looks the same. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Our political paradigm, Republicans equal expected adversaries, and centrist, moderate, weak, progressive Democrats equal effective adversaries of the left. Bam. Well said, AJF. Brenda says, when Crystal and Kyle had Chris Hedges on, he humiliated and exposed their failed strategy. And that's why they won't have Kshama Sawant on their show. That was something I mentioned. Thank you for saying that, Brenda. I have never seen Kshama Sawant on there. Why are they not having these conversations with people like Kshama Sawant? And not just them, like TYT. Why are they not having these conversations with people like Kshama Sawant, people who have won not running through the Democratic Party? People who are to their left. LPA Film said, Sabby Sabs, glad you at least reached out. I think it would take you or Bree Joy to get into his elitist head. You both have a way of delivering a message while not watering down your message. Oh, thank you so much for that, LPA Film. Like I said, the door is open. He's invited. The door is open. Fasal says Black Americans will forever stay below the poverty level, be enslaved, and will not ever progress if they do not change their mindset and go for something different from the Democrats. Brenda said David Soretta is the poster boy of white privilege and comfort. Damn, Brenda. Griff the Magician said, I'm so glad I found this channel. Got to tell everyone I know about the 10 demands and how to follow y'all. Thank you so much, Griff. I really appreciated that. Those of you watching, if you haven't had the chance to do so, please be sure to hit that like button, guys. That really does help me with the algorithm. So would like to get the likes up if we could. And let's go ahead into the final story. Now, this is Richard Wolff and RJ. Why do I want to call him Audrey? And RJ ESKOW. And they are having a discussion about guns in the economy. Now, we all know recently with the school shooting in Texas, there's been uproar again about, do we need some type of gun reform? Do we need some type of gun control? And the thing that I really like about Richard Wolff is that he can take any issue that you throw at him and he will reference how the economy fits in with this. He'll bring up the economic point about that issue, something that sometimes we may not focus on, right? Even if it's a social issue. When he came on last year, one of the questions I asked him was about gentrification. He brought it back to the economic reason for it. So that's one of the things I like about Richard Wolff. So he's on RJ ESKOW's The 0 Hour Show, and he's asked about gun economics. And this is important. I want you to hear how he ties in advertising and the economy for the reason why we have the issues with guns in this country. Listen to this. This is really good.
Urban populations also, compared to the rest of the world, are heavy buyers and users of guns. So it seems to me there's kind of a valuation that many segments of our society put on guns as an object, as a symbol. Do you get what I'm driving at?
Yep. For me, the way I come at the points you raised is, and I admit this, I am an economist, so I'm always wondering about the economic dimensions of things. And one of the things that characterizes our capitalist system in a way that nothing in other systems has ever been comparable is the industry we call advertising. In other words, in capitalism, we teach students that the system produces what people want. And indeed, we're supposed to admire capitalism because, in part, it produces what people want. And yet, to be honest, and lots of honest people know this, capitalists long ago stopped being satisfied with the role of producing what people want. And they went into the business in a very big way of producing not only the goods that people want, but the wants that people have, so that they can make money producing the goods that are profitable, because they have shaped the wants that create the market for those goods. In other words, a modern capitalist works on both sides of the market, on the supply and the demand, to get the profitable outcome he wants. All right. With that in mind, consider the remarkable success that advertisers have had. I remember once having an advertiser explain in great detail to a group of economists how his firm had helped a particular automobile company sell automobiles.
Yeah, and this is something that advertisers are really good at. For those who don't know, if you're like new, you may not know this, but I majored in broadcast journalism, and a part of that major, I actually had to take classes on advertising, public relations, like it's all connected, right? So one of the things about advertising is that you have to reel the customer in. So you need like catchy phrases or slogans. You need an ad, something that's vibrant, something that really jumps out and grabs their attention, whether it's tugging at their heartstrings, whether it's making them feel excited about what you're talking about, something that will get them out of their seat, off the couch, and say, I have to have that. So advertisers are very effective at luring the customer in and making the customer crave the product or the brand that they're trying to sell. And the really good advertisers, they'll sell a lot of product because of that. Now listen to what he says about how the advertising industry also has an effect when it comes to guns in this country.
And I'm almost quoting now what he said to us in the room. He said, we learned that the thing to do was to drape a half-naked young woman across the fender of a car. And we all kind of looked perplexed, and then he quickly explained, because in those days, this is some years ago, the overwhelming market for that particular car was known to be young males. And therefore, the idea was you put the half-naked young lady on the fender, because in the mind of the buyer, buying the car kind of might get you the lady too. In other words, it was an associative kind of logic. And then he proceeded to explain to us,
advertisers are really good at playing on people's emotions, their desires, and their wants. They're really good at that. And it's true, right? Like, sex sells. It's an old saying, but it's true. Sex does sell. So if you have a commercial with a nice car, yeah, if a guy's watching it or whatever, I don't want to say just guy, like, you know, not everybody is straight or whatever. But anyway, if you have a commercial with a car and someone's watching that commercial, yeah, they might think, wow, that's a nice car. But if you add in something extra to it, like I said, sex sells, you put on a half-naked woman laying on top of that car, then it gives them the impression that, oh, wow, I really have to get that car. And if I get that car, maybe I might be able to get someone like that. They're really good at it.
how this kind of principle was used across the board. That the reason you see a popular can of soda pop in the hands of a lovely, excited young group of people on the beach is that the buyer wants to be part of a happy young group of people at the beach and will associate buying a can of whatever the soda was with somehow gaining entree into this happy group at the beach. All right.
The ones that are the worst, you guys, are the ads for they used to show, I don't know if they show them anymore, I haven't seen them in a while, these ads for like the herpes like medication, and they would show like the actors like biking, they're like mountain climbing. They're like going on all these different dates. And they're like, I got my life back after taking such and such. And I remember thinking to myself, like, dude, I don't do all that. And I don't have herpes. Okay. So they give you the idea that if you are that person and you do have herpes and you take that medication, is it Valtrex? Yes. Okay, Valtrex. Thanks, Saul. You take that medication, all of a sudden, you're still going to have this active life. You're still going to have an active dating life. You're just going to be living through the moon. And I'm like, I don't do all that right now. And I don't. So it's just really funny. Like, but yes, they give you the illusion, the idea that your life is going to be that way if you have that product. It's true.
If that's understood, then now watch the logic of the corporations that make handguns, rifles, shotguns, and all the rest of the killing machinery that we see used all the time. They had to solve the same advertising problem. The market for guns was probably mostly hunters, because that's what it is in Canada and places like that. People for whom hunting is either a source of food or a sport, or however they understand it. But that's a very limited market, because that's a very limited number of people. So the advertisers were called in and they were asked to do what they do. Can you associate the gun with something else that large numbers of people will want? Because then
here it comes, you guys. Pay attention to this.
They'll buy the gun to get whatever that other thing is, because the gun per se is not attractive to them. Indeed, guns tend to frighten people. Guns are dangerous. Guns have a lot of negatives that would make people shy away. Okay, they had an ally. They found an ally. The automobile companies didn't find such a lovely ally, but the gun companies did. The National Rifle Association, the NRA.
Yep.
And this was, if you like, a marriage made either up there or down there, depending on your point of view. And now they figured out how they could solve their advertising problem. Associate the gun with security. You will be safer if you have a gun, because a gun frightens other people, you see?
Yep. Safety, security. Those are some of the things that they use. And then so people will think that. They'll think, well, maybe I should get a gun, because then that way I'll feel safe. I'll feel secured. I can't tell you how many people I've known that have said things like that, that they'll feel safer if they had it. That comes from advertising.
And they will leave you alone. They will not threaten you, your family, your home, your property, whatever else. Number two, having a gun is a very manly thing to do. Since the overwhelming buyers of guns are men in this country, have always been, and they are now. Just like the overwhelming use of a gun is by a man, and the overwhelming majority number of people killed by a gun are men. Women are not, they're not in there. They're just not.
That's important for people to know. I'm glad that he mentioned that. Usually in cases of gun violence, it's usually men that are affected, not so much women. So who are the gun manufacturers trying to market to? They're mainly trying to market to men. So now when you see those ads, whether it's on TV, whether it's in a magazine, you'll remember that. That's their audience. That's their niche. That's their demographic. That's who they're going after. That's their target. Now listen to the rest of this.
Not in this story. So the second thing was, it's very manly. And here you have to remember the Marlboro cigarette man, you know, the kind of lonesome fellow up there on the horse, and all of the imagery that you're very, very manly. Then there's something which is not so manly, but more You're a tough guy. No one's going to mess with you because
Yep.
you possess guns and you have them on the rack in the back of your pickup truck, etc.
And I just want to add too, the music industry also advertised guns. I don't know if everyone remembers or if everyone was around back then, but especially like during the 90s, the music industry also advertised them. They had music artists, they had rappers, they had, rock stars also doing that too, making you feel like, excuse me one second. I am seriously congested. Making you feel like you were tough if you had a gun. It's not just commercials, like they do it through music, movies, TV,
etc. So you had the NRA beating the bushes, building this, and then the gun companies could come in with additional advertisement, and you did what? You, in a brilliant move, and I don't take it away from them. It's evil what they do, but it's brilliant how they go about it. They were able to see that there were sociological issues that made it easy to sell the gun if you associated it with security, manliness, and tough guy. Why? And here comes the big one. Because the capitalist economic system was savagely undermining the security, the manliness, and the toughness of particularly, but not only, but particularly adult white men. They were.
It always goes back to capitalism. Let's hear that part again, at least that little short part. I'm not going to keep you guys for too long, but let's just hear that part because that part's important. I hope I didn't go back too far.
It easy to sell the gun if you associated it with security, manliness, and tough guy. Why? And here comes the big one. Because the capitalist economic system was savagely undermining the security, the manliness, and the toughness of particularly, but not only, but particularly adult white men. They were the ones who had the highest salaries. Therefore, in this country, whether their wages or salaries were very high or just high, in capitalism, the more successful a worker is to get higher wages, the greater the incentive for the employer to get rid of the worker, to replace it with a machine, or to move production out of the country, or to bring in a cheaper substitute laborer. When these things really got going, particularly in the 1970s and in the half century since then, what you were doing was attacking the self-concept of white adult males. You were
boom. And at the end of the day, that is the fear of what is being threatened. That's the fear. Oh no, I might lose all this freedom, this privilege that I have. That's the kicker. It all goes back to capitalism and a white supremacist society. He hit the nail on the head. Noche said, professor's gonna profess. All right, let him finish here.
You were taking away their job security. You were taking away their job. You were taking away their future. You were taking away their capacity to be the provider of the household for the woman, to hold his head up high, to be a tough guy. I get paid what I'm worth, and that's why I get paid well, and that's why I get paid more than other people. All of that was taken away. Yep. And the white adult worker was deprived of his security, deprived of his job security, deprived of his income, deprived of his social standing, and he was desperate. And into that desperation comes the gun manufacturer and his advertiser saying, here is a way to recoup your manhood, to recoup your power, to recoup your toughness, have a gun, and not just have it. Work really hard to get the right to carry it in the open, where everyone can see what a tough guy you are, possessed of this deadly weapon. And, you know, that's what advertisers do. Their job is not to investigate the morality or not. Their job is to sell whatever it is their client manufactures, and they figured out how to attach gun purchase to a desperate need of a whole segment of the population, a need that could not be, they can't get a good job. They're not available anymore. They can't get an adequate income. It's not available anymore. But they can go to the nearby Walmart and buy as many guns as they can fit into whatever cabinet they keep them in, and make themselves feel as though there's something that they have. There's something where they're still able to express what has been taken away from them. So
to make them feel like they still have some type of power in a corrupt capitalist system. That's what it all comes down to. You guys can finish the rest of this interview. Now, this is on RJ ESKOW's. It's called The 0 Hour. I hope I'm saying RJ's last name correctly, but it's called The 0 Hour. You can watch that full interview. I have a couple of things to show you, and then I have to get going, but definitely check that out. All I have to say is that he's 100% on it. Like I said, like I did like those advertising classes. We had different projects. We had to go out to businesses and try to create ads and storyboards to sell. And at the end of the day, what they would always tell us is your main goal is to sell. You're not supposed to think about, as the advertiser, they didn't want us to really think about the morality. They didn't want us to think about people's feelings, if people would be offended. You got to understand, this was years ago, right? So that we were not supposed to think about that. All we were supposed to do was to sell the product, to sell the brand. And I feel like Richard Wolff really hit it like right out of the park with that. He really did a good job with that. Because it's important. Like that's what people think. Again, at the end of the end of the day, the idea is to make sure that you can maintain, to hold on to some type of power, but you can't lose all of it. That cannot happen. So that's where for a lot of people, the guns come in. They want to still maintain blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, you guys, I told you I haven't eaten dinner, so I'm a mess. To hold on to some type of power. That's what this is about. I'll go ahead and take those comments on Rockfin. Eric. Thank you for the tip, Roger Meadows on Rockfin. Keep telling y'all the brothers went in with guns and came out with jobs. Thank you for that. Thank you for this tip as well. Well, it's obvious Bakari Sellers wants to be the next Clyburn kingmaker and power broker on Capitol Hill. He wants to be the guy to deliver the black vote. Our strategy should be starting worker co-ops in states across the country to be the main lobbying force in their state capitals, to get state legislatures to start an Article V convention to put forth an amendment to reverse Citizens United. I like that idea, Roger. We can also use worker co-ops to improve the ballot initiative process in ballot initiative states, like make sure they all allow voters amend their state constitution via ballot process. Seeing that some states only allow the BI process passing state law and have worker co-ops fight to make non-BI states like mine BI states. Worker co-ops represent working people on a most fundamental level more than unions. A network of us pooling money and resources can do this. Yes, learn that in college about advertisers, Sab. Either they tug at heartstrings, appeal to your intellect, make you feel excited, appeal to your ability to attract the opposite gender, and I don't know what happened there. Oh, and if not, and no need exists for it, then you create the need. Also, the car ads work on women too. Most women I've seen in their 20s that have a certain look, and you know what I'm talking, only seen with dudes with hot rides. Obama was right and should have never backtracked on saying regarding Pennsylvania, you go into these small towns in Pennsylvania and like a lot of small towns in the Midwest, the jobs have been gone now for 25 years and nothing's replacing them. And it's not surprising they didn't get bitter. They cling to guns or religion or antipathy to people who aren't like them or anti-immigrant sentiment or anti-trade sentiment as well to explain their frustrations. Thank you so much for that, Roger Meadows. Well said. All right, guys, I do want to end with some good news, something I'm going to be trying to be doing better at. Let me shout out Colin really quick. Thank you for the super chat. Capitalism is what killed the children in Uvalde. I agree. Thank you so much for that, Colin. Well said. So I told you guys I did go to see Metallica last night. I have a little clip to show you. There's no music. This is like their bowing moment. So I said, yeah, Metallica was awesome. So I'll just play this for you just to give you a little bit of happiness for your day. Here we go.
Boston! Fucking love you. You guys are fucking great. Thank you so much. Yeah!
So much fun, you guys. It was awesome. I'm telling you one thing. I didn't want to be the person to have to clean up that place because if you look at the ground, there's like stuff everywhere on the ground and they had trash cans and they didn't do it. But yeah, it was so much fun, you guys. I had a great time. Like they put on an awesome show. I'm very picky about concerts, but I've gone to a lot of concerts and I got to say that's one of the best ones I've been to. I would say Metallica and Prince so far, those are the best concerts I've been to. It was awesome. And there were so many people there, you guys. Like I saw people like my parents' age. I mentioned this earlier. There were people there with like toddlers, like a little 2-year-old kids were there. And I was like, you brought them to a Metallica show? But it was just so much fun. Everybody was like real, like cool. And that was a part of Boston Calling Music Festival. It happens here every year in May. It's always great. It's a 3-day event, and each day they have a different headliner. So 9 Inch Nails was on Saturday and Friday as the headliner because Foo Fighters drummer passed away. So Foo Fighters was not able to make it, but it was supposed to be Foo Fighters, 9 Inch Nails, and Metallica as the headliners for those 3 days. And it was cool. Weezer was there. I saw Weezer. They still kind of look the same a little bit. But yeah. Other good news I do want to share with you guys. If you have not heard, those of you who are sports fans who are following basketball, I do got to give a big shout out to my Boston Celtics. Kicked some real brutal ass last night. They almost gave me a heart attack at the same time because it was so close. And I want to just let you know, they beat the Heat in Game 7. The Boston Celtics are moving on to the NBA Finals, where they will face the Golden State Warriors. It will not be easy. It is going to be tough, but I am not counting them out. And I know some people are already doing that. I'm like, look, I don't know. This might be our year. Jason Tatum, we've put him up for a long time. He deserves to win a championship. These guys have been fighting hard. They've gone through different players, different coaches, reorgs. It's been crazy. But I got to give a shout out to the Boston Celtics for doing the damn thing last night. And don't ever scare me like that again, please. Because it literally came up to the final minute. So shout out to you guys. You're rock stars. You're awesome. Doing the damn thing. All right, guys, I am heading out. It is past my time and I still have not eaten dinner. So I need to eat. I'm about to get hangry. So have a good night, guys. I'll be back tomorrow night. Should be an interesting show. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.